I hate to be the doom and gloom guy, but I'm maybe historically pessimistic about the upcoming Moana 2, and it has everything to do with how it was produced, transitioning from a Disney Plus series into a feature film way too late into its production. Writer Jared Bush recently revealed that voice of Moana, Auli'i finished her final recording session for Moana 2 just a few days ago, for a film that is barely over 2 months from release. That is concerning. That means, as was surmised when this quote-unquote film was announced, that they are basically going in and redubbing the performances over the actors who were meant to play the characters in the Disney Plus show. It wasn't announced that Dwayne Johnson and Auli'i were reprising their roles until after Moana 2 was announced, which, by the way, happened in February of this year for a November release. That is absolutely unheard of, especially for Disney. I am just incredibly concerned and disappointed in how this entire project came together. This was created as a series and is now being retrofitted into a feature film, basically because Iger realized that Moana is their most popular animated film on Disney Plus. And look, I am a Moana stan. It's probably my favorite modern animated Disney film, but that film was written and conceived as a film. It was directed by Disney legends John Musker and Ron Clements, and it had an incredible soundtrack by Lin-Manuel Miranda. None of these things will be the case for the sequel. It is just so difficult to imagine how this thing is supposed to feel like a 3-act film when it was meant to be a 6 to 10 episode series or whatever it was going to be. I understand wanting to capitalize on Moana's success, but this is not the way to do that, in my opinion. And look, I am all for new blood, and I'm all for people getting new opportunities to work on big projects, but this is being directed by 3 people who have never directed a feature film before. They're co-directing their very first feature film, and to me, it kind of feels like they're being set up to fail a little bit. Music-wise, I think Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear are a pretty cool choice. They recently won a Grammy, but there's a lot of expectations on the music of Moana, and I think that is going to be important when it comes to looking at this story from the perspective of a series versus a movie. If this were just a Disney Plus series as it was intended to be, the expectations would not be as high as a theatrically released feature film. If a series drops on Disney Plus and a family says, "Hey, kids, there's a new Moana show, let's put it on," there are very low stakes. Your expectations are going to be reasonable. The kids are going to sit down and they're going to watch a new Moana adventure 1 episode at a time. There isn't much in terms of expectation other than, hey, the kids get to watch more Moana. However, for a big theatrically released feature film event, families are buying tickets, getting out to the theaters, buying concessions, sitting down, and watching something on the big screen that was never meant to be on the big screen. And if that film doesn't meet expectations, that is way more disappointing than if a series on Disney Plus doesn't meet expectations. If the series had come out and had been a swing and a miss, they still could have gone back to the drawing board and written a feature film version of Moana 2 from the outset. And look, Moana 1 is a great film. It was a huge success, so I don't understand why you aren't getting as many elements from the original film as you possibly can when producing the sequel. And obviously the answer to that is because this was never intended to be a feature film. It was meant to be a series. And from the trailers, the animation looks pretty good. The animation certainly doesn't look bad. I think it's a beautiful looking film, though I'm not convinced it has the polish you might expect from an actual theatrically released Walt Disney animation film. And that is partially because this whole series was outsourced to Walt Disney Animation Studios Vancouver. The Vancouver studio was always meant to work on lower budget series productions, which means that everyone who was working there were animators working under the impression that they were working on a series. They were probably working for series rates as well. So I guess my big question here is, are the animators who worked on Moana 2 under the impression that it was a series for those series production rates, are they going to be retroactively compensated for film rates now that this is a feature film. It doesn't really seem fair that they can produce something under the guise of it being a series for lower rates and then retroactively say, hey, actually this is a movie now, thanks for giving us cheaper labor. It just all around feels pretty shady and underhanded, just across the board. It doesn't feel like this is how this should have been produced. It doesn't feel fair to the audience, and it doesn't feel fair to the production workers and the animators. But I think my actual biggest fear here is the fact that a lot of people don't seem to know this behind the scenes information. People don't know that Moana 2 was never meant to be a movie, it was always meant to be a series. And therefore, because the trailers look pretty and people are saying, hey, look, there's a new Moana movie, I think Moana 2 is probably going to make a lot of money. It's going to make so much money at the box office because the first one was a success. It's only gained popularity in the years since its release, now being the most popular film on Disney Plus apparently. And I think Moana 2 is going to smash the box office. Maybe not Inside Out 2 levels, but I think Moana 2 we can expect to make a ton of money. I don't think that means it's going to be good, but I do think it means it's going to be successful. And that to me is where the disaster lies. I think if Moana 2 is a huge success, even if it's critically panned, even if audiences don't like it, if it makes a ton of money, Disney is going to look at it and say, hey, we can do that again. We can take all of our series meant for Disney Plus, retrofit them into movies relatively cheaply, and make a bunch of money. I'm just worried it means they're going to be cutting corners and slashing budgets and screwing over their animators and workers at every step they can, basically, in order to make more money. It's the Disney way. And I think the quality of the product is going to be sacrificed and is going to suffer because of these kinds of decisions. And that is a huge, huge disappointment and bummer. In fact, Moana is such a fun, great film. There is so much potential for a sequel, and I'm really disappointed because it feels like they're squandering it. I would have actually loved to see this Moana series and see what they had cooked up for this series, but instead we're going to get this weird truncated version of the series that's been retrofit into a 3-act film, allegedly. I don't know how that's going to work. It just doesn't make any sense. If they had done a series and been like, oh cool, a little bit of extra Moana content, we get a little bit of world building, a little more character stuff, here's some fun songs written by these cool girls from TikTok. But instead, this is going to go up on the big screen, it's going to have to match the expectations of the incredible first film, and I don't think there's any possible way it can meet them based on the way this film was made. It was just not made in a way that makes sense. It was not made in a way that breeds success in film production. And that is the problem here. So, I don't know. I hope Moana 2 isn't... I don't know. I don't even know what I want to say about it, because if it's good, then that sucks, because that means they can continue to screw people over in this way and make things in this ill-advised production way. And if it's bad, then we get a really shitty movie in a series that I really love. There's no winning. There's just no winning here. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be a huge success at the box office, a critical and audience failure, and then they'll say, well, we're going to make Moana 3, but we're going to bring back everyone who worked on the first one. I mean, there are still some people from the first one on this. The score is still the same composers. They have one of the same writers back. But I don't know, man. Everything about this is concerning to me. So that's where we're at. Moana 2, how do you feel? Do you think it's going to be good or bad? I think it's going to be bad. Okay, so long. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.